Today's video will focus on the dry white wines from Bordeaux. I'll discuss a bit about the region, the various quality levels, the different grape varieties that are used, the importance of vintage, and what you can expect to find in your wine glass. Included will be a tasting of 4 different examples. Hi, I'm Bob Paulinski, Master of Wine. Thank you very much for clicking on today's video. This video was created at my home away from home in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is an excellent French wine market, particularly for Bordeaux. In many cases, over half of the wines offered in any shop will be from Bordeaux. This is a region with thousands of wine producers making over 600 million bottles of wine each year. While red wine plays a lead focus, about 60 million bottles of dry white wine are produced annually. While you may not find the exact wines featured in this video, it'll provide guidance of what to expect in terms of various wine styles when you're out wine shopping. A bit about the region. It's a vast expanse of vineyards, the second largest in France, located around the city of Bordeaux in the western part of the country near the Atlantic Ocean. About 85% of the region is dedicated to red wine production, about 10% to dry white. The remaining small percentage is dedicated to sweet wine, rosé, and sparkling. Prior to the devastating frost of 1956, the region was heavily influenced by white wine, mostly sweeter styles, along with some dedicated to distilled spirits. In terms of making sense of the wine labels, generally speaking, the more specific the place of origin, the better chance of coming across something truly special. At a base level, Bordeaux AOC or Entre-Deux-Mers are very common examples. These are generally solid, decent wines, but they come from a very broad place of origin. Moving up to grapes, this provides a more specific origin with a better sense of place. Then transitioning to Pessac-Léognan, this is a more defined place of origin with a long established presence for dry white wines. It's an AOC that was just established back in 1987. But now comes the twist. Throughout the region, many prominent red wine producers make small amounts of fantastic dry white wine. Sometimes there's restrictions in terms of place of origin on the labels. I'll discuss this point a bit later in this video. Vintage is a critical consideration with maritime regions like Bordeaux. It'll directly affect the quality and styles of the wines. In terms of recent vintages, all the word on 23 is very positive. The 2022 is a bit less so. I'm a big fan of the 2021s. They are much better for the white wines versus the red from Bordeaux. And as for the 2020s, they're solid, although some of the wines do have elevated alcohol levels. As for grape varieties, Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon are the 2 primary players in white Bordeaux. Muscadel is sometimes used in small amounts to lift the aroma. Look for a Sauvignon Gris to become more of a prominent grape variety in the coming years. Others like Ugnet Blanc, Colombard, Merlot Blanc all play minuscule roles. In this pic, it shows Sauvignon Blanc that was just harvested. You can see the seeds are not quite brown. This is one indicator of ripeness. First up is the 2021 Chateau de Beauregard du Court, an Entre-Deux-Mers from the vast vineyard lands from the southeast of the city of Bordeaux. The wine sells for about $15. This is no frills winemaking. Machine harvested fruit. Most Entre-Deux-Mers is made either in stainless steel or concrete vats. It generally sees no time in oak. It's all about highlighting the primary fruit character. The wines are direct, they're simple, clean, with aging potential of about 5 years. Sauvignon Blanc is typically the primary grape variety used, with some Semillon, occasionally a bit of Muscadel. In Malaysia and in many other countries, a duty-paid stamp will be noted on the bottle. This is white Bordeaux at a base level. There are massive amounts of Entre-Deux-Mers produced. Much of it is just very crisp, fresh, simple style, but it has a refreshing character when it's made well. And I think in many cases, Entre-Deux-Mers represents fantastic values. Again, you don't want to keep these wines very long. They're really best when they're very youthful and fresh. You'll notice the color on this. There's a slight greenish tinge to it, fairly pale in color. It really looks just as it should. It has that vibrant, exuberant appearance to it. And the aroma is bright, clean, fresh, a little zesty. It has that herbal citrus character to it. Really smells great, but it's in a very simple, direct way. On the palate, all that herbal citrus character follows through. Nice lifted acidity, and that's the key with Entre-Deux-Mers. When the acidity is bright, the wines really do show their very best. It's not overly full, 12.5% alcohol, so kind of in that mid-range, which again is quite typical for Entre-Deux-Mers. Everything about this wine is put together in a very good manner. And generally speaking, with Entre-Deux-Mers, you'll find some coming from chateaus like this. There's also a good number of negociant bottlings. The quality level on these generally is fairly consistent, and the ceiling is not too high. So basically what you're getting is something that is bright, lively, fresh, clean, Bordeaux at its base level. If you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing it right now. Also hit that like button and definitely hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to speed on all things happening here. With the second wine, we're moving up the quality ladder. This is the 2020 Chateau Labanat Graves. It sells for about $20 per bottle. The Graves AOC gets its name from the gravel-based soils, which are commonly found within the region. This wine should have a completely different story to tell versus wine 1. Not only because it's made primarily with semillon, where the first was primarily Sauvignon Blanc, this wine also sees some time in oak, and there's also a degree of bâtonnage, or that lees stirring, which is going to provide the wine with more volume, a little more weight, a little more heft. Also, the yields tend to be much lower on Graves versus Entre-Deux-Mers. So let's see what we have in the glass. Color is different than the first wine. The first wine had more of a greenish tinge. This one does show a bit of yellow. Keep in mind this wine is a 2020 vintage, so it does have a little bit of age to it. But you can see the color is definitely deeper than wine 1. And the aroma profile, very different. While the previous wine had that citrus, that herb characteristic to it that was quite lifted, this is more broad. This has a richer, weightier characteristic to it, more of a stone fruit note. Yeah, on the palate, this is night and day versus wine 1. This is weightier, more concentrated. There's much more complexity to this wine. It's nuanced, it's layered. There's really that oak characteristic definitely does come through, but the wine has more structure. It's a broader, heftier style wine. This is not all that chilled. I've only had this in the fridge for about 40 minutes. I think that's where this wine should be. I wouldn't want this too cold. I think it would just tap down some of that aroma and flavor profile. So maybe 40, 45 minutes in the fridge is all you need. Coming back to this wine for a second time, it's really developed quite quickly in the glass. There is a tropical fruit character, a bit like guava, a bit of a passion fruit note. The oak definitely does carry through as well, but the oak is well integrated into the wine. The fruit and the oak really play off each other very well. But the wine is well structured. I think this would have no problem aging a few more years, which is very common with Graves. Oftentimes they can go 7, 8 years out when they're stored right. Now, some of the examples can be primarily semillon. Others will be primarily Sauvignon Blanc. If you get the heavier semillon style, generally the wines will be broader, weightier, richer on the palate. That's exactly what this is. This is a good bottle of wine. Next up is the 2017 Chateau Barret Pessac-Léognan. This is an appellation that came into existence in the 1980s. Think of it as the prime cut region within Graves. Some of the wines are more Sauvignon Blanc based, others more semillon. In this case, it's 90% Sauvignon Blanc, 10% semillon. The wine is oak aged, some new, with a good amount of lees stirring. This is the oldest wine in today's tasting, and this specific appellation has a tremendous track record for ageability with dry whites. Some of the greatest dry white Bordeauxs come from Pessac-Léognan. Now, in this case, because this wine does have some bottle age to it, I'm expecting it to show some of those characteristics that are typical with some age. Certainly looking at the color of it, you do get that deeper appearance, a bit more of a yellow characteristic. There's some depth of color here as well, probably from a slight oxidative character. The aroma, you certainly do get that oak characteristic. This wine does spend some time in new oak. But it has more of a stone fruit, pear, peach, apricot characteristic to it. It smells a little bit like Bosc pear as well, but there's that vanilla smoke note from the oak as well. Aromatics are really quite compelling. Oh, on the palate, This is a beauty. Very round, weighty, rich, good length that extends to the back palate. I would say the acidity level is only moderate. It's enough to give the wine a bit of a lift, but it has very good breadth. There's volume on the palate. Really nice. The carry through is just sensational. And the character from this wine, this tertiary characteristic, only comes with bottle age. And for me, this is one of the really cool things with the whites from Pessac-Léognan. They have great aging potential. They drink very well when the wines are youthful. They also develop into something very interesting and different than the youthful versions with some bottle age. This wine being 7 years old, it's holding together just beautifully. I wouldn't have any trouble with keeping this another 3 or 4 years. Really a beautiful example from one of the best places to look for dry white Bordeaux. The last wine is the 2020 Chateau Forecast du Pré Blanc. It sells for about $30. This estate has a long history of producing great value for red Bordeaux. White wines make up a very small portion of the total production. So up to this point, it's been relatively straightforward. As you get more specific, more defined in terms of place of origin, oftentimes you're going to move up the quality ladder. Well, you can throw that all out the window with this last wine. In many regions in Bordeaux, many of the appellations, they'll be specified as being for red only. That's the case with this particular wine. This is from an area called Listrac, which is one of the better values from the left bank, but the appellation is only built for red wine. Therefore, any whites that are produced, and in this case, the production is very small, but the production must be designated as just basic Bordeaux. So this is really a matter of doing your due diligence and finding those examples that fall into this classification that are worth searching out. Now, in this case, this wine is predominantly from Sauvignon Blanc, about 25% semillon, and it does have a couple of years bottle age to it. There's new ownership with this property. This is just a few years back, and they produced a new swanky package, which I think looks really quite good. This has consistently been an outstanding source for value. This is not one of the great classified Bordeaux. It falls under that ranking, but in terms of value for the money, it's been tremendous with the red. This is the first time for me tasting the white. See by the color, there is some depth of color to this wine. This does spend some time in oak. It's a combination of oak, stainless steel, and partly with amphora, which is the very old method of making wine that is now trendy again. Oh, the aroma on this wine, this is outstanding. It smells like Meyer lemon, and there is a bit of that smoky charred vanilla characteristic to it, but a good smack of that citrus note, that stone fruit character shows through. Absolutely love the way this wine smells. Oh, on the palate, this is really very cool. There's good intensity there. There's a lot of nuance. There's layers to this wine. You certainly do get the oak characteristic, but it does not dominate the fruit. It's bright, it's fresh, there's very good acidity, carries through to the back palate. In terms of ticking the boxes, in terms of having a very complete, well-made wine, this one does it on every occasion. It really, really shows well. Production is very small. I don't know if you're going to be able to find this. Look, I found it in Malaysia, so obviously it's making its way into some export markets. But if you can find it, it's definitely worth searching out. But there are so many examples that fall under this general category where you have these classic, fantastic red wine producers that produce a tiny, tiny amount of white as well, but it will take some searching out. Absolutely love this wine. I'm not sure if I'm going to be drinking the Pessac-Léognan or this the Forecast du Pré. Probably a bit of both a little later tonight. Most days by late afternoon, unbelievable thunderstorms come rolling through Kuala Lumpur. I'm going to watch the storm while I'm drinking a little bit of white Bordeaux. I hope you're drinking something interesting as well. If you have any questions on white Bordeaux, please post it down below. I do my very best to follow up on each and every one. And please stop back again before too long. Cheers.